All right, what is up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Lifting, Running, and Living with your favorite, still for now, coaches, Kelly.
Hello.
Hey, and JK. That's me. The intro stays the same until it no longer does. That was very profound.
Yeah.
All right, episode 54. So before we get into talking about today's topic, where we're going to talk about majoring in the minors or minoring in the majors or something like that. Basically, focusing on what actually matters when it comes to running, and we'll talk about lifting some here too. But before we get into that, per the usual, let's do some updates. So Kelly, what is going on with you?
So my first update, I'm going to start with my shout out of the day. So I have a shout out for Garmin.
Of the
Uh,
day. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So as you know, the listeners don't know this. If I remember, I'll post it on our story, but I sent you a video of my Garmin watch the other day that I just so happened to
Yeah.
drop face down in my bathroom.
Rip.
Yeah, it still functions, but there are two giant black lines down the screen.
Yeah.
So I decided to reach out to Garmin and I was like, is there a way to fix this? And they were like, try, I'll reset. And I turned off my watch and the lines were still there. So I immediately knew
Yeah. That's
nothing would
screen
fix it.
damage. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that didn't work. And he was like, well, we can exchange it for the same model for $180. And I was like, I can just get a Phoenix for $180? Because I was fully expecting them to be like, here's a coupon for $100 off a new one, which we
Yeah.
all know how expensive a Phoenix is, and I would not buy a new one.
Oh, yes. Don't worry. We do, Kelly. We've talked about this
Yeah.
before.
To be clear, I have the Phoenix 6, so it's 2 models ago at this point.
That's always your rebuttal. Always.
And I bought it half off. So,
It's like, I have a 2020 Rolls Royce. Yeah. Okay. All right, then.
But
Anyways.
anyway, I was pleasantly surprised that I was able to exchange it for, like, in my mind, it's a fair price. It's a refurbished watch. It'll be
Yeah.
a different watch band color. They don't have the one I have, but that's fine with me. So I just wanted to shout out them because I was really happy as a customer.
Yeah. For reference, what do you think the current going rate would be? Like if you wanted to hop on, actually, I can check that real fast. So if I wanted to hop on, let's say eBay
Yeah, go find out for
and
me.
grab, what do you have? Phoenix 6?
Phoenix 6S Solar.
Phoenix 6S Solar. I think that's what the S is for, isn't it? Or no?
No, there's a 6S
Okay.
and there's a 6S Solar.
Okay. So a
S means,
Phoenix.
I don't know what it means, but it's like it's a smaller version.
Okay. Yeah. It's going for about 375 to 400.
Yeah.
So yeah. So if you can get one at 180, that's pretty legit. I'm
Yeah.
surprised it broke though.
I
'Cause that
am
thing-
too.
Yeah, that thing is supposed to be built for a lot of duration. Like I was acquainted with somebody who was on a fairly active SWAT team, like real active SWAT team, unfortunately, and he swore by that after breaking multiple Fitbits and other
Huh.
things. He got that thing and he was like, "Man, this thing is like a tank." He's like, "I don't even want to tell you the things I've done with this." I'm like, "Nope, I don't want to know." So, anyways,
Yeah, it must have been, like when you drop your iPhone in that exactly wrong way that it shatters your screen, and like other times you can drop it and it doesn't do a thing. I think I just dropped it in the exact wrong way on a hard floor.
I literally just did that a few days ago with my phone. It fell out of my grocery cart.
Ooh.
However, the screen protector did save it. It cracked like right at the top edge, right near the camera, the front-facing camera.
Oh no.
Anybody who's got like the Pro Max model knows exactly the spot I'm talking about. And
Mhm.
fortunately, the screen protector itself broke, so I just swapped that. But yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool.
No.
Shout out Garmin.
Shout out. Yeah, cuz like if I had done that to my iPhone, especially I told them I was like I dropped this. Like it was my fault.
Yeah.
Nothing happened to the
Yeah.
watch. But I feel like Apple would have been like, "You're SOL. Good luck with that iPhone. Buy a new one."
Yeah. Based on my experience, you are correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to Garmin. My only other update, I wanted to give a quick training and racing update because the hill climb is coming up in 2 weekends from this coming weekend. And then the track race is at the end of July. And I just bought my first pair of carbon plated shoes. So I am super excited to try them out. I won't wear them on the hill climb because they're road shoes, but I will wear them in the track race. And then I'm probably going to sign up for the same 5Ks this fall and wear them. Um, but yeah, I went up to Vail this past weekend to run on the course, and it was a rude awakening of what is to come in a few weeks.
Okay.
It's just always shocking how hard it is running uphill at 8,000 feet, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was trying out new shoes, and I found out on that run those shoes will not work for me. They gave me heel blisters and my feet fell asleep. So
Ooh.
I'm trying. I would not recommend this to people to figure out what shoe you're going to wear 2 weeks before. You should
Yeah.
probably do this. Yeah. Well, I bought a new pair of trail shoes. They were the Nike Ultrafly, so I was really
Mhm.
hopeful because they have a carbon plate, which is only a few trail shoes have it, but I found them on sale, so I was really hopeful. And now running in my normal trail shoes feels like running in bare
Trash.
feet. Yeah, it sucks.
As the kids say, a mid experience.
Very mid experience, but I would rather be able to feel my feet and not get blisters than have a
Yeah.
carbon plate.
Is
Yeah.
there, did I see that you posted you can't return those?
I mean, I ran in the dirt and they're dirty now and they're a white shoe, so I don't
You're not sure.
I don't think so. I mean, they'll
Okay.
like know I ran in them.
Yeah. One of the reasons I was asking is when I bought my lifters, I bought
Mhm.
them through the Amazon like try. You could actually try them and wear
Yeah.
them for a certain amount of time as long as you sent them back. I didn't know if that was a possibility with however you got those, because shoes on the internet, that is tough, and that's, you're
It
talking to
is.
somebody who was in like the shoe business for a number of years, and yeah, people
Yeah,
all the time.
I can usually tell when I put them on just in my house if they'll work or not. And the
Yeah,
Nikes were like they were on the edge of too snug, and I was hoping I could like stretch them out, but then like I tried wearing thinner socks and that's when I got blisters and like I can't deal with heel blisters.
it makes sense.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I was
Okay.
hopeful. I have to double check the return policy, but I don't think from this place you can because a lot of running shoe return policies are like you have to return them new,
Yeah,
like as you
fair
got them.
enough.
Yeah. But
Well, just like the Garmin, you don't know until you try. Maybe
yeah,
if,
that's
if
true.
even if they offer like a business credit, like a credit to that business store credit or something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
All
We'll see.
right. Well,
But
we'll
yeah.
we'll be waiting for the update on that one then. Let us know. Anything else going on?
No, that's
No.
about it.
Okay. Well, I've just got one little update. So we are recording this on Monday, Monday after Father's Day. So first, happy Father's Day to any dads that may be listening and all that good stuff. So this weekend, so this would have been on Friday. So Friday, I basically did a day trip, and up and back to Chicago. We live about 130 miles from Chicago. So I did an up and back to Chicago to attend a presentation by my friend and fellow coach and business owner and all sorts of things in the fitness world, Sarah Fisher Reynolds, at the Perform Better Summit. So Perform Better, for those who are not familiar with them, is a fitness equipment company that has been in, gosh, they've been in the mix for I don't even know how long now.
Mhm.
Everything as far as like racks, kettlebells, TRX systems, dumbbells, bikes, like just the whole, they run the whole gamut. And they have these 3 day, I think they call them functional training summits. Don't quote me on that, but they have these 3 day summits. One is in Chicago. I think the other one is either in Boston or Rhode Island. And I think the other one is then in like somewhat of a more traditionally warmer climate. You could tell I have
Mhm.
like not all my information together on this.
Yeah.
But I attended it was a bit nostalgic because I attended my first one back in, oh man, probably 2016 or something was the
Whoa.
first one. Yeah. That I ever attended. And then, um, yeah, Sarah reached out and let me know that she was going to be a keynote speaker. So they have basically these experts within the fitness space do presentations. And when they do presentations there, they go deep. Like these are hour to hour and a half long presentations. You learn a ton. And the way that they set their presentations up is, I think, extremely helpful and very educational. Like when you go there, you're going there to learn. And typically, it's like I said, it's a 3-day summit. I was going specifically just to learn from Sarah's presentation because she's just that good at what she
Mhm.
does. But the way that they structure it is that the speaker who's going to be there, you will attend their primary presentation, which is typically, again, an hour to an hour and a half. I think hers was about an hour 10, hour and 15 minutes long. Then directly after that, they have other speakers, going in other rooms. However, you can attend a basically like an intimate Q&A with that speaker, which is almost like
Hmm.
sitting at a dinner table. So we attended that right afterwards. And then based on me catching the train back here, I couldn't stay for her hands-on. So the expert also does a
Whoa.
separate like hour-long hands-on session where they're actually going through particular training techniques of all sorts, whatever they tend to specialize in. So if you get a chance ever, if you're someone who's listening who is either themselves like a fitness professional or just someone who really wants to get a true like deep dive into particular things that any of the presenters uh, are presenting and teaching on, it's a rare opportunity to basically get like a masterclass and a hands-on and a Q&A all in one. So her topic was identifying. Wasn't the exact title, but it was all about basically identifying and problem solving for client burnout and stress.
Hmm.
So it's the general avatar, from my perspective, the general avatar that she was really focused on educating people around serving is that person who thinks I just need the right workout plan and the right macro split, and that will fix everything. And at the end of the day, that doesn't fix everything. And that's actually going to be somewhat related to some of the stuff that we're talking about today, as far as like really knowing what does and doesn't matter. At the end of
Mhm.
the day, she just, I mean, she did a fantastic presentation. Like started off with this really great like analogy of what happens to flamingos when they spend so much time and energy and literally like their resources, like the resources of the mom, go to the baby flamingos, and that's why you see pink flamingos eventually turn white, because it's
Oh.
literally like draining. Yeah, they're literally draining their resources in order to care for the baby flamingos.
Huh.
And so then at some point, eventually, like with the proper care, they can build their pink back. So she used that as like this metaphor to start. Yeah, it was a really weird pause. So it's just like crazy analogy, metaphor, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really good presentation. And then also was just able to reunite with another friend of mine who's a coach in the Philly area. So yeah, that was
Hmm.
a good time. It was a up and, like I said, it was a up and back. I spent more time traveling than I did in the presentation itself, and it was still was time well spent. So this has been a pretty solid year of in-person connection and education and things like that, because it's very spot on for the population that I work with, like
Mhm.
very spot on. So she introduced us to a handful of different assessment tools and things like that that we can use. And I'll close it out with just a really big focus was on being able to also understand that there's a difference between assessing someone out of let's get curious about certain things that are happening versus, okay, I'm going to now diagnose you as this. I'm not using the tool for a diagnosis, I'm using the tool as an assessment so that we can get curious, and then it just further reinforce the importance of having like a network of
Mm.
people that you can refer. So mental health professionals, that's really like one of the bigger ones that tends to
Yeah.
come up like big time. So all in all, very, very good presentation. And again, shout out my friend Sarah Fisher Reynolds. She's on Instagram as Coach Sarah Deep Health, and her and
Hmm.
her husband have a physical facility in Downers Grove, which is like right outside of Chicago. Cool, like gym and chiropractic facility all in one. It's fantastic. So that was a good time. That's the latest and greatest that I've been involved in.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's every year.
Yeah, they have it. They have it every year, but again, it's the company has performed better, and they're always this 3-day summit. It's usually
Mm.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I want to say they have vendors that are there with different equipment and things like that. It's just a very unique experience to be able to do like a classroom session, and then it's almost like I think a lab, like kind of like that sort of a setup where you actually then practice the things that you
Yeah.
talk about. And yeah, pretty pretty cool stuff. So if anybody's ever interested in checking that out, just look up Perform Better 3-day summits and you'll see information.
Sweet.
So yeah, so that's my update. You want to get into the topic here?
I have a question for you first.
Okay,
It's
sure.
gonna derail us for a second.
Okay.
My friend the other day, I
Hmm.
was talking about creatine and how
Mm-hmm.
I've been taking it since January, and he
Okay.
was like, "Do you notice a difference?" And I was like, "I don't know." So I'm curious if you notice a difference.
Oh gosh. So for myself,
Yeah,
I've been taking it for
so long.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've been taking it for I could be 10 years now. I don't even know. I don't remember
10
how long.
years.
Yeah, I don't know how long it's been. It's been forever.
Do you remember when you first started if you noticed a difference?
No. Uh-uh. I
Hmm.
know I'm totally like buzzkill on this topic, but
I mean, I told him,
no.
I was like, "I can't tell you if I notice a difference because, like, I don't know."
Yeah. Do you know the context as from where he was asking about like when you say a difference, what he might have been alluding to or what
I'm guessing,
context he
like,
was
any
listening?
positive benefits,
Okay.
you know?
Gotcha.
But I feel like it's hard to say because, like, creatine's supposed to help you, like, recover better and stuff, you
Hmm.
know? But it's like, am I recovering better because of the creatine? Because I got more sleep a certain day? Am I eating better? Am I, like, balancing my training load better? Am I not as
Yeah.
stressed? You
I'm
know?
going to tell you that so from my perspective, having, I'm going to pull the majority of my perspective based on working with clients because
Mm,
as we just basically mentioned, I've been taking it for so long that I don't even remember the first time that I took it.
yeah.
Um, with it being something that works through saturation,
Mm,
and that being the main way that it then activates isn't even the right word, but essentially it's a saturation product, which for those who are like, what does that mean? Like basically it's not something that has some sort of like acute response or anything like that. It
yeah.
takes time to actually get into the bloodstream and do the things that it's supposed to do. So
Yeah.
it's not like a right away sort of thing. So the feedback that I've gotten from people who have felt like there has been a difference has
Mhm.
primarily been in my folks who, number one, are very consistent in lifting weights, for sure.
Yeah.
So they're lifting weights. They also are lifting weights with intensity, with the right amount of intensity at the right time. So they're running
Yeah.
through like they're my clients. So I know that they're humbly, I know that respectfully, I know they're doing a decently well designed program. We lift heavy relative to the particular individual. So they have reported back after some time. So, we're not talking like it's been a couple of weeks, that sort of a thing. What we will typically notice is, let's say, I'd say about 2 to 3 months down the road, it's
Mhm.
not like a oh, I can just tell you that I feel this way all of a sudden. It's just, hey, have you noticed that we're able to keep this RIR, which is reps in reserve 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, going for longer in this training cycle? They're noticing that leg days don't necessarily crush them as much as they used to, or even for my average client does the same training cycle for about 6 weeks, like some, or I'd say 6 to 7 weeks. Some of them, it's around 4 weeks. I have a couple of them that go like 12 weeks. So somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And typically that first week is where there's a decent amount of soreness, just because typically I'll, kind of change things up a little bit to get a little bit of a different stimulus. We kind of flush some things out from the last cycle. So that first week is typically a decent amount of soreness. Then the second week, there's maybe some, but they start to adapt. So there's a neurological adaptation that happens where they get used to the movement. Then there's the muscular adaptation. And that's when they're really starting to like really lift heavy. They
Hmm.
just find that they my folks who have noticed anything or reported it back have just noticed that that initial like onset of soreness lasts maybe the first week, maybe week and a half,
Hmm.
and then after that they still feel like, ooh, I definitely worked out, but it's
Yeah.
nothing like, it's nothing tough or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, I would say on the flip side, I don't know that I wouldn't consider it a bad thing if you haven't noticed anything
Yeah.
specific. I would be, yeah, because then it's like, well, it's overall, it seems like the benefits are pretty well researched. So
Yeah.
not doing anything detrimental.
Yeah.
So,
That's how I think about it. And I think it's just like hard. There's been so many things within like my training that have changed
right.
since January. So it's like anything that I feel is it you can't pinpoint what it's because of, you know?
Yeah, I agree, and especially because it's so different than, like, I'll compare it to like caffeine or
Mm,
pre-workout. It's not the same thing. It's not even close to the
yeah.
same thing. And I think that because it's a powdered supplement that's in a small amount, I think that it just naturally is in people's psyche to think it's around the same sort of thing as a caffeine or a pre-workout, that
Yeah.
you're going to quote unquote feel it. And it's not something that you feel. I would liken it to, it's how I felt when I started taking glucosamine chondroitin
Hmm.
for joints. And it was something that I didn't necessarily notice for the first probably 2 weeks. And then around like 3 to 4 weeks, I just happened to notice at that time I was having like some joint pain and things like that. However, that kind of had to do more with like my lifting technique. I was figured out. This is like many years ago.
Yeah.
But what I realized is after a while, it was definitely doing what it needed to do, because I ran out and I stopped taking it. And when I stopped taking it, that's where I felt like, oh snap! Like I
Oh.
haven't felt like this. Feels a little bit weird. So it was almost like, yeah, it was actually working, but I didn't know it was working until I stopped taking it. And then I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. So it was something I had to build back up that rhythm and the routine. I really liken creatine to that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That
for
makes
sure.
sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway,
Yeah.
we can move on now.
Okay. All right. Well, so for today's topic, I say we're gonna focus the majority of the time here on the running here. So I reached out to Kelly and I said, hey, I think that a decent topic would be something along like focusing on what actually matters and what doesn't matter. And doesn't matter is probably a pretty strong statement. And also, I mean, if I really wanted to like try and chase like the viral moment, be like, stop focusing on this. But I think the easiest way is just like when it comes down to it, we talk about me, we talk about majoring in the minors, like the things that people are spending time on trying to find like this particular thing or nail this specific thing. When at the end of the day, we're like, can you first nail like just the most foundational thing before we try to figure out if you should double knot your laces or not? Like I just made that up. But it's like the stepping over dollars to pick up pennies
Mhm.
mentality. So majoring in the minors, like what does and doesn't matter when it comes to running and lifting. So I've got a few things here on the list to throw out, basically like some majors for running and some minors. And then I'll do a quick run through on the lifting ones. I'll most likely do more of a I plan to do more of a deep dive on my podcast, Help Me Understand. It'll either be, well, by the time this comes out, it will either have been this most recent Tuesday episode or it may be the Tuesday after that. So,
Mm.
all right. So, how do you want to do this? Do you want to just go through the
Yeah.
running ones, or you want me to run them, or go for it?
We can
All
go
right.
for it, and then you can just interject as you have thoughts, the usual.
This will be really good. This will be good for me as someone who is not super deep in the running space. So
Yeah.
this will be helpful for me to either validate or bust any thoughts that I have on, listen,
Mm,
I'm just trying to keep it as simple can be.
that's
And
true.
am I focusing my attention on the right things? So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
So admittedly, JK came up with this list and I just vetted it. So the first one, I'm gonna tweak this one a little bit. We have running volume and then obviously progressing as you go along as you get more used to running. But I'm gonna also throw in running frequency because that's something I see people all the time. They worry too much about volume without thinking about frequency. And what I mean by that is how many days a week you are running. So like someone who's running once for 10 miles, not the same as someone who's running 3 times for 10 miles total. And I would say the
Mm,
person who runs 3 days a week, maybe it's like 334 miles.
okay. Yep.
I would say that they are better off than the person who runs once a week for 10 miles and just does
Okay.
that.
Oh,
Um,
and just to clarify here, what we're talking about is the things you should focus on. So we're
yeah,
starting with, hey, these are the things, these are the majors. This is what to
yeah,
focus on. Okay.
yeah. And I'm thinking about this from the lens of someone who wants to progress in running, eventually like get faster, chase goals, that kind of thing. So, like for most people, you need to run more than 2 days a week. Like
Oh,
if you're gonna have like race goals, like if you're no, not even that. I was gonna say if maybe you're racing like 5Ks, but like if you're then progressing to the point where you're chasing like time goals at a 5K, 2 days a week isn't gonna cut it. Um,
okay.
because yeah, so like if
That's fair.
you're someone who wants to be, I don't know, competitive with yourself in running in the future, the more days a week you can run, as long as you have rest days, the better usually. Um, And then obviously this is different for a lot of people. Like I can run 6 days a week and not get injured from that. I know some other people who they run 6 days a week and immediately are injured. um, so I do think some people have limitations in how many days a week they can run. Like you don't have to run 6 days a week. I just really enjoy it. But usually 4 to 6 days a week is what I recommend people get to. So before you even start thinking about progressing your volume, I would work up your frequency to be able to like have your body be able to handle that many days of running. Um, and combining that with cross training, if you can't get your running frequency up too high, will be really helpful just for your aerobic base, which we'll go
Mhm.
into another point that we have, but just helping improve your endurance and get your aerobic up to snuff, that kind of thing.
Okay. So running volume through frequency.
Yeah.
Okay. I like
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people, especially once you get up to like marathon ultras, attempt to train like 3 days of running a week. And I feel like that is just, you're setting yourself up for
Yeah.
a really high injury risk just because you can't spread out your mileage as much. Um, and it's just hard on your body, you know?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be number one, which goes along with number two. When you're running easy runs, they need to actually be easy. which if you're just starting out running, this can be really hard because running is just hard. You're not used to it yet. You're not cardiovascularly trained yet. So for beginners, I wouldn't worry about it as much. But once you're like a little past the beginner stage and you are more in the groove, you know what a conversational pace feels like. That's when you want to start making sure you're not running too fast every single run. So like some indications are one, like the talk test. If you were running with someone or on the phone and you couldn't talk to them the whole time, you're probably running too fast.
Yep.
Another big one is if you finish the run and you're just like, oh my God, I'm so happy that's done. Like I'm toast. You ran too fast. Most
Yeah.
easy runs, you should feel like outside of motivation, all of that stuff, like if you had to keep going cardiovascularly, physically, you could keep going. Um, so just making sure like you have stuff left in the tank when the run is over.
Okay. And that tracks with a pretty consistent message that you've talked about for as long as I've known you. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then I added this one in. I also think that speed workouts are very important. And this is again with the assumption that you want to improve within running, you want to set some goals progressing. Um, so I think we talked about it a bit before, but there for a time on social media back when I back in my day when I started running, there was such a focus on like running fast and always
Hmm.
going hard, which we all know that era was like the 2010s.
Yeah.
No pain, no gain.
Yep.
Um, and then we swung really far to easy running, and people would say a lot like run slow to run fast.
Hmm.
But
Even
my
I heard that. Yeah.
yeah, and my complaint with that is only half of the equation. Like if you just run slow the whole time, you're not going to get faster. You know,
Right.
it's run slow when you're intending to run slow, which is on your easy runs. So you can run fast on your hard workout days to practice running fast. Because you can't run fast without practicing running fast.
Makes sense.
I mean, you can, but like there's a whole lot that goes into it. But speed workouts, like one day a week, once you've built your base of easy running, your frequency is up enough. Um, I think they're really beneficial, and just making sure you get a variety of speed workouts. So strides are like the most basic. They're basically accelerations and decelerations, and they're very short. They're not stressful. Just getting some leg turnover. Those are really nice. And then you get into the more intense speed workouts, so like VO2 work, the short, fast stuff, tempo threshold, the longer, more sustained stuff, which we've gone over a little bit in the past. But just making sure you have a variety of that so you can be a well rounded runner. Um, and then, like, obviously, depending on what you're training for, you can get more nuanced in what kind of speed workout you're doing. But I think it's beneficial to have some sort almost always year round. Outside of like when you need a break from running.
So basically, so taking what you've talked about so far, about 3 to 4 runs per week, with one of those being speed based.
Yeah.
Seems reasonable. Okay. On
Mhm.
average. Again, we know that there's a lot of nuance that we're not covering.
Yeah.
However, I think that that's really the point here,
Yeah.
is regardless of, you can section things out as much as you want to, and still at the end of the day, like the foundation's the foundation, like the base is the base. So okay.
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
And then one that goes along kind of with easy running that we didn't put on this list is one long run a week is really common as you get your base formed. So in our example, if you're running 4 days a week, you'd have 2 easy runs, one speed workout, one long run. And long runs usually count as a hard day, even though they are not intense, but their duration makes them hard. So yeah, throwing in those. And then our favorite topic, strength training is very important for runners, even though there are still people out there that refuse to acknowledge that.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I still feel it. I see it in like trail running. It's just,
Hmm.
I don't know, it still feels like pulling teeth to get people to say it's important or like it's helpful versus like you look in road running or track and field,
Yeah.
I don't know any pros that don't strength train, because we know it improves running efficiency, running economy, which are they're more important in road and track races because you're doing the same motion over and over. There's not much variation versus trails and ultras. There's a lot more factors that go into
Yeah.
success, but yeah, I don't fully get it. But I would say it is one of the basics, especially, I mean, I've harped on this over and over again. All of us are humans first, runners second. And I would tell any human they should be strength training, especially any woman, because we want to be strong throughout life. We don't want to fall, break our bones, and then potentially die because of it. So,
Mhm.
yeah. And then if you want to get more specific for like running, single leg exercises are really important just to help with imbalances, help you. Obviously, running is a single leg sport. You're just bouncing from one leg to the other for miles and miles on end. So strengthening single leg, um, very good for you. But like JK has covered before, as long as you cover your main movement patterns, squat, hinge, lunge, carry, push, pull, then you've covered all your bases, really.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I like that. I especially think when it comes to trail running that strength training is even more important based
Oh,
on
I agree.
the one, the potential injury risk. Well,
Mhm.
they're related because of potential injury risk due to the terrain that you're running on.
Yep.
And typically more incline, decline, everything. There's just yeah. You have much more of a mixed bag. So that's interesting to me. So
Yeah.
all
I
right.
also think that as you go farther, strength training is more important because you like your body's breaking down the longer you run. You want it to be as strong as possible to be able to handle late in races, depending on how far you're running. Um, I mean, I think where people get hung up is like the debate, which we've covered a little bit before, of if you have so many hours a week to train. Are you better
Hmm.
off running more? Or are you better off cutting back on some running and doing some strength training? So,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that I think that also makes an assumption on what a proper strength training program for to support the event that you have looks like. So
Yeah.
I think that that's where folks can get it twisted because they're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to take the majority of the messaging that I hear about building and maintaining muscle, which is train 3 to 4 days per week at X amount of intensity. So I'm going to take that in isolation. And then I'm also going to take the information for the amount of mileage that I need to do to get ready for my event in isolation. But I'm going to stand above both of those things and look at like, okay, well, I need to do this much mileage in order to get ready for my event. And I need to
Mhm.
lift this much in order to gain X amount of muscle. And it's like, that's where I think that's where a lot of the argument that too much cardio kills your gains and then too much strength and hypertrophy work damages your ability to run. Like it just makes you too bulky, so then you can't run very well. I think that that's where some of those arguments come from, is because they're looking at them as two separate things as opposed to building a
Mhm.
program that complements. So that's my 2 cents on that one for
Yeah,
what it's
and
worth.
I've always found it interesting, especially as someone we've talked about this. I'm a CrossFit fan.
Hmm.
Like, I would consider most of those athletes to be, bulky.
Okay.
They're very strong. They've got a lot of muscles. They're
Hmm.
also very fast and very good at running when they have to run.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm talking about like at the games level,
Yeah.
but I just think it doesn't support what people say. Like, if you get too bulky, you can't run. Unless you're like trying to go for world records, like, yeah, the world record holders tend to not have as much muscle as a CrossFitter kind of thing. But like,
Yeah.
let's be real.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. And then the last thing is something we've talked about a million gajillion times is just listening to your body, like adjusting your
Oh, no
training.
song this time?
No, it
Dang.
never was a song. I was just saying it sing song tune.
The OGs know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But yeah, just adjusting your training based on external factors, your sleep, your stress, how sore you are, all of that. But I will say you do need to not use listening to your body as an excuse not to do things, which is obviously the hard part of knowing when to push through something and when to pull back.
It's weird. You
Uh,
didn't mention cycle syncing though.
don't get me started on cycle.
Okay. Anyways, sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Speaking of minors,
Oh boy. Are you ready
we
to
should
transition into the
we should
minors?
throw that on the list.
Uh,
Um,
oh Lord. You're gonna start a
I'm gonna
fight.
add it to the list.
Okay.
Yeah, we can move to minors.
Okay.
So things that don't matter until you have the basics down.
Yeah. It's a great way to phrase it.
Yeah, which then with that phrasing, cycle syncing doesn't have a place either. So in my mind, yes, it has
Oh
no
Lord.
place in running. Anyway, so the first point is you had listed worrying about pace on every run, and I'm going to expand it to be worrying about literally any singular data point on every single run.
Hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, I think even if you have the basics down, well, they might be more helpful to focus more on metrics, but like pace will vary depending on how you're feeling. An easy run one day will be a different pace than an easy run on another day. Same with speed work, which I feel like is what people have the most trouble with when they focus on pace.
Mhm.
Um, and then like other metrics that come to mind are heart rate. Like people who constantly monitor their heart rate during a run, I'm like, you are missing the whole point of this run, you know? If you're doing that for every run, I think it is useful to do it occasionally to check in. Like, if you're not sure, if you're running, like, if your heart rate's floating up too high, like Garmin's Coros, any watch nowadays can give you beeps when you leave a certain range. Can also be helpful with cadence if you're trying to like get your cadence up. But I think focusing too much on any one data point is just pointless. It just
Yeah.
introduces too much stress into the process that is then counterproductive when like I think the end goal should be just being able to run by feel, you know? Outside of like dedicated workouts, if you're striving for a time goal, then yeah, you'll probably look at your watch a little bit more to see like how you're pacing. But I think that's a very specific situation. But like easy runs, long runs, anything that's not the intention of the run is not to hit or practice a certain pace, then you should just run by feel. And like that's a very under uh what word am I looking for? It's a skill that not many
Uh,
people have.
okay. Fair. Fair.
I couldn't think of the word.
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna put that in the minors, and then we're gonna put obsessing over gear and shoes, which is I think a really good one. And this is coming from the girl who just bought carbon plated shoes.
I was laughing a little bit when you first started talking about that.
I
Yeah.
know. Well, I read this and I was like, this is so funny because I just bought my first pair. But yeah, there's a lot of things. We could make this list so long, but there's a lot of
Right.
things that people think are going to be what makes lets you achieve whatever goal you have set while neglecting proper training, sleep, nutrition, recovery, stress management, all of that, all of the majors. And gear and shoes is one of those. Carbon plated shoes will help you run faster, but you also have to be able to run fast. Like just because I have carbon plated shoes doesn't mean I can go run 5-minute miles now, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like it'll make me run a little bit faster than I can with my non carbon plated shoes, but I still need to put in the work in training and recovery to be able to, perform on the day of my race and to perform in workouts and just be able to move my legs that fast. And then similarly, like we make jokes about my Phoenix, but you don't need an expensive watch to be able to run
Right.
and train and all those things. Uh, Trying to think of what other gear am I missing? Like you don't need the latest and greatest of things. It's really whatever is comfortable and works for you is good enough. I
Yeah.
think especially with shoes, people, especially in the influencer culture now, they'll be like, "Oh, I saw this influencer wear this shoe, so then I tried these shoes." And it's like, "Okay, but are they comfortable for you?" Like it's cool to try new shoes. I think everyone should try new shoes and see what you like and don't like, but don't buy something just because an influencer said that they buy it, and don't buy things just because of the color if they're not comfortable for you, which is a thing I see a lot with shoes. Um, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Okay.
gonna add one more.
Go for it.
I'm gonna add supplements.
Okay.
Yeah, obsessing over what supplement you need to be taking. Um, Ketones are having a moment right now. Bicarb is having a moment right now.
Oh,
And yeah, and I
okay.
think for admittedly, I haven't tried either of these. I think there's so many things I could work on nutrition-wise before I resort to buying
Right.
like, both of them are very expensive, ketones and bicarb, and there's just a lot of other knobs that I could be turning before I need to turn those knobs, especially I feel like there is such a small performance gain from those, um, so supplements like that are not yet tried and true. Like we mentioned creatine earlier, I would say that is not in this category. Like if you have the means and the money you want to be taking creatine, I think that's a great
Mm-hmm.
supplement. Same with like protein because we know like those are tried and true. They have benefits for endurance sports in particular. I mean protein is just for people in general. Um but yeah, I guess pointing to supplements when you should be pointing to like food or sleep.
Yeah. I would agree with that on the lifting side too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think those are the big ones.
Okay. Well, that was yeah. I mean that was thorough, which I expected it was going to be, and I'm glad that a good amount of the stuff that I came up with was, for the most part, within the atmosphere of things that are the majors. So I like that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
The speed work is the only one I was like, this could be a major for some people and a minor for others, you know?
Yeah, I would. So what I would say in terms of cardiovascular health, I would actually, I know you're, so from my perspective, you approach this from the performance standpoint with
Yeah.
running. With, for me, with the folks that I am working with, primarily the like running or anything else that's in there, whether it's rowing, biking, anything cardio based, is typically for cardiovascular health.
Yeah.
So we are working on like aerobic capacity, improving their VO2 max, things like that. But we're doing it from the standpoint of your body, trying to build your body to be resilient,
Mm-hmm.
versus it's specifically pointed towards, okay, make sure you run a particular pace or make sure you hit this particular heart rate, that sort of a thing. It's more about like effort level
Yeah.
to be able to withstand certain things. So I would actually say, when you talk about like the speed work, in my world, that's going to be like sprint interval training
Yeah.
or actual hit, which in my opinion, sprint interval training became a term because people basically bastardized hit training, because it was no longer hit, it was MIT. It was
It,
moderate intensity
it
interval
was just a
training.
circuit.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
if you can stay at the same station at your favorite boot camp for 2 minutes, that's like 2 minutes on and whatever off, or even 1 minute on, is potentially not high intensity. Like high intensity, you're pretty much cashed after about 25 to 30 seconds. You're just like
Yeah.
gasping for air. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, what I'm going to do here with the lifting one, I'm just going to quickly just talk about the 4 bullet points that I've got written down right now for the majors. And then this will basically be a teaser for if you'd like to tune in for a deep dive on what I believe are the majors. And this is what I've got right now. I'll have some additional time to think about it and flesh some other things out. So Lord knows I'll probably come up with a couple other things. But my whole idea is to keep the majors like very basic and keep it
Yeah.
basic and foundational. Like that's my vibe, basic and foundational. So the things that I listed, and these are in no particular order at all. So the things that really matter when it comes to lifting weights, getting stronger, building muscle, all under that umbrella. Again, in no particular order, but number one, I wrote down progressive overload. So having progressions in your program that help you gradually increase any combination of the amount of weight that you lift, the number of reps that you do, or the amount of time under tension, because those are the things that are really going to drive the adaptations. So those are the things that are really going to challenge your muscles and help you get stronger and again, build or maintain muscle. So major number one, again, in no particular order, progressive overload, having that inside of your program. Number two would be lifting with proper form and technique. So quality, lifting with quality.
Mm,
And if I had to like put these in a particular order, I would say lifting with quality first, and then adding the progressions second, because you want to make sure that we're doing the movement properly with actual solid form first before we then start adding additional reps to
mhm.
the movement. Or excuse me, additional reps and additional weight,
Yeah.
because because we can, just because you can add 10 more pounds, but if the 10 more pounds looks a little wonky, we probably don't need to do that, because we're probably going to hurt ourselves at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So movement quality and technique and proper form, that would be major number two, the thing that matters. Thing that matters number three, I jotted down consistency over intensity. So being able to regularly show up and do the work and get it done with quality is going to, I just jotted down, it's going to supersede the occasional like max effort crazy session, because overall what I want and what I think people should really focus on is being able to build a solid rhythm that allows them to continue to show up, so you can show up for the next workout. It's not about, man, I balled out so hard on Tuesday and then I wasn't back in the gym again for another week and a half because I was so cashed.
Yeah.
Because remember, more likely than not, if you're listening to this podcast, you are not a paid professional athlete for the most part. But
Yeah.
shout out LeBron if you're listening. However, the majority of us have other things to focus on. We likely are not going to then have a team taking care of like body work for us after we're done with our session. Like we're probably
Yeah.
hopping in the car to go do something else. So keep that in mind. You pick and choose your spots where you go like hard in the paint, and then you pick and choose your spots where you're working through things fairly methodically at a moderate intensity. So again, consistency over intensity always. And then the last one, again, in no particular order, making sure that you are paying attention to actually recovering well from the session. And that's really related to the previous one, too.
Mhm.
Something that aids in recovery or aids in being consistent with your lifting is going to be actually focusing on your recovery. So if you really want to get the best, or build, or just keep it simple and build a solid foundation when it comes to lifting weights, building muscle, all that stuff, then there has to be a focus on getting proper sleep. So the misconception for many folks who are newer to structured strength training, so structured strength training, common misconception is that the muscle that you are looking to build primarily happens inside of the gym. Inside of the gym, you basically strike the match, like you start the fire, and you basically you start the process. Let me just put it that way. You start the process. So to close the loop on the muscle building process, you also need to allow for adequate recovery, because during that repair and that rebuilding process, like, that's, your body needs to be in a safe space in order to do that. You do that through proper sleep, proper nutrition, proper hydration, and actually taking a day off every now and then probably would help. So the recovery is the piece that actually drives the growth. Like, that's where the replenishment happens. So again, just to recap mine, I know I went through them fairly quickly. However, again, I'll deep dive these on Help Me Understand. So we've got progressive overload, movement quality and technique with proper form, consistency over intensity, and then recovering well. So those are the things that, as of right now, I'm going to say are the four major things that you should really focus on. And as far as the minors go, tune into the episode and I'll talk about some of the things that, from my point of view, folks are maybe putting more effort into or more mental energy into, when first we got to nail the majors for sure. That's what I've got. I know I went through a pretty quick one there, but I wanted to primarily focus on the running one anyway. So
Yeah, we said we were going to try to limit this to 40 minutes and we're at an hour, so
yeah, well, we'll start making some progress here. So
we
getting better.
did when we 2 years ago we started at an hour and 45 minutes, so
Yeah. Well,
you
we're
know,
getting there. We're
we're,
getting
we're
there.
getting there.
All right.
But yeah,
All
if
right.
anyone if anyone would like to find us, you can do so on Instagram at Lifting Running Living Pod, or you can email us at liftingrunnинglivingpod@gmail.com. If you are a bot who wants to email us about some random guest we might want to have on, please don't. I'm sick of them already. So, anyone else,
Yikes.
you are welcome. Any humans who would
Fantastic.
like to ask us a question or give us feedback.
Yeah. Always open to receiving that feedback from humans. All right.
Yes.
So with that, thank you again, folks, for tuning in to another episode of Lifting, Running, and Living. We've hit the end of the episode. As of right now, we're still coaches. So stick
Yeah.
around. We might have an update for you next week. Who knows? But until then, take care and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.